Daniel Harper sat at his desk, looking out over the busy airport below. Skyline Airways had grown a lot in the last few years, and he felt proud of what he had accomplished. Flights were on time, passengers were happy, and the airline's reputation was stronger than ever. Today, however, he felt a little nervous. The board of directors was holding a meeting to discuss new expansion plans, and he knew it would not be an easy discussion. As he reviewed the notes for the meeting, his assistant knocked lightly on the door. "Daniel, the boardroom is ready," she said. He nodded and stood up, straightening his tie. He was used to meetings, but something about this one felt different. When Daniel entered the boardroom, he was surprised to see all the directors already seated. Their expressions were serious, as if they were expecting someone important. He smiled politely and greeted everyone. "Good morning, everyone. Let's get started," he said. At that moment, the door opened again. Daniel turned and saw a woman walking in. She was dressed in a sharp white suit, her hair tied neatly, and her expression calm but confident. She moved to the head of the table without waiting for an invitation. Daniel felt a sudden shock. Who was she? He had never seen her before. "I will be taking the CEO seat for today's meeting," she said clearly, her voice steady and confident. The room went silent. Daniel felt a strange mix of surprise and confusion. He was the CEO. How could someone just walk in and take his place? "Excuse me," Daniel said, stepping forward. "I am the CEO. I should lead this meeting." The woman looked at him kindly and smiled. "I understand, Daniel. I respect your work. Today, I just want to share some ideas that may help the airline grow. I think you will find them useful." Her words were polite, but her presence made everyone pause. Daniel noticed that the board members were leaning forward, listening carefully. She began to speak about the airline's current operations. She mentioned ways to improve efficiency, ideas to attract more passengers, and ways to make flights safer and more comfortable. Every word seemed measured and thoughtful. Daniel felt a mix of admiration and irritation. She spoke with authority, yet without arrogance. It was as if she knew the company better than he did. The board members nodded and took notes. Some whispered to each other, clearly impressed. Daniel could not deny that her ideas were good, but he could not understand why she was acting as if she belonged there. As the meeting continued, Clara, as he learned her name was, asked questions about recent flight schedules, customer feedback, and maintenance operations. She seemed genuinely interested in understanding the details. Daniel noticed that employees who had joined the meeting looked at her with respect. She was not only knowledgeable but also made people feel valued. Daniel tried to focus on presenting his own plans, but every time he spoke, Clara offered suggestions that improved his ideas. It was both frustrating and fascinating. He had worked hard to grow Skyline Airways, and here was someone enhancing his plans in real time. After an hour, the boardroom felt electric. Everyone was engaged, and the discussion was productive. Daniel realized that Clara was not just a stranger or a guest. She had insight, strategy, and confidence that was rare. Yet he still had one big question. Who was she really, and why was she here? Finally, the meeting ended. The board members looked satisfied and excited about the new ideas. Daniel gathered his papers, trying to calm the storm of thoughts in his mind. Clara stood and smiled at him. "You have done a great job with this airline, Daniel. I hope we can work together to make it even stronger." Daniel nodded, still unsure how to respond. He felt respect for her, but also confusion and curiosity. He wanted answers. Who was this woman who had walked into his office, taken his seat, and changed the entire energy of the room? As Clara left the boardroom, Daniel knew one thing for certain. Today had changed everything. Something important was coming, and he needed to be ready. Daniel could not stop thinking about Clara as he returned to his office. Her presence in the boardroom had been unsettling, yet strangely inspiring. He had always been confident in his role as CEO, but Clara had challenged that confidence in a way he had never experienced before. Her calm authority, her deep knowledge of the airline, and her ability to make people listen had left a mark on him. He sat at his desk, staring at his notes from the meeting. He knew that the ideas she had shared were excellent. Some were completely new, while others improved on plans he had spent months developing. Daniel felt a mixture of frustration and curiosity. How could someone walk into his office and take control so easily? His assistant knocked on the door. "Daniel, the marketing team is here for the weekly review," she said. Daniel nodded and gathered his papers. He walked into the meeting room, but his mind kept returning to Clara. He wondered who she really was, and why she had appeared without warning. As he presented the airline's latest marketing strategies, Daniel noticed that Clara had left a small card on his desk. He picked it up. It had her name, Clara Bennett, and a phone number. There was no title, no company information, nothing that explained her sudden authority. Daniel frowned, but he decided not to call. He needed to focus on his work for now. Later that afternoon, Daniel was walking through the airport terminal, checking on operations, when he saw Clara again. She was speaking with the ground staff, asking detailed questions about scheduling, safety checks, and passenger services. The employees seemed comfortable around her, and they answered her questions honestly. Daniel approached her cautiously. "Clara," he said, "how do you know so much about every part of this airline?" Clara smiled. "I like to understand the details," she replied. "You cannot make big changes if you do not know the small things. I have been following Skyline for some time. Your work is impressive, Daniel." Daniel could feel his irritation easing slightly, replaced by admiration. "It is unusual to see someone so confident without being rude or pushy," he said. Clara looked at him kindly. "Confidence comes from preparation and observation. Respect comes from listening. You have both, Daniel. I want to work with you, not against you." Her words surprised him. Daniel had expected arrogance or criticism, but Clara's tone was supportive and honest. He realized she was not there to compete with him, she was there to guide and help. Still, he could not ignore the questions that lingered in his mind. After spending the afternoon with Clara at different areas of the airport, Daniel invited her to a quiet lounge. "I need to understand something," he said. "Why are you here? Who are you really?" Clara leaned back in her chair and smiled slightly. "Daniel, all in good time. I wanted to see how things operate before revealing too much. I needed to know how Skyline functions under your leadership. You have done very well, but there is always room to grow." Daniel nodded slowly. He could see she was not just testing him, she was assessing the entire airline. Her perspective was sharp, and her observations were accurate. He began to realize that Clara might be more than just an advisor or a visitor. They spent the next few hours walking through the airport and discussing ideas. Clara suggested new routes to explore, ways to improve passenger experience, and strategies to increase profits without cutting corners. Daniel listened carefully. He felt a strange mix of respect and curiosity. She was brilliant, but there was still a mystery surrounding her. As the evening approached, Clara stood up. "I need to leave for now," she said. "Daniel, I hope you consider what we discussed. Tomorrow, we can continue exploring these ideas." Daniel watched her leave, feeling a mix of excitement and uncertainty. He had never met anyone like Clara Bennett. She was a challenge, a mentor, and a mystery all at once. One thing was clear: Daniel's life as CEO of Skyline Airways was about to change in ways he could not yet imagine. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the Skyline Airways headquarters earlier than usual. He could not stop thinking about Clara Bennett. Her insights from yesterday's meeting still lingered in his mind. Every suggestion she had made had been practical, detailed, and surprisingly easy to understand. Daniel knew that any other CEO would have been impressed, but he could not shake the feeling that there was more to her than she let on. As he walked through the lobby, he noticed employees whispering and glancing toward the elevator. Daniel followed their gaze and saw Clara stepping out, carrying a tablet in her hand. She looked calm and confident, as if she owned the entire building. Daniel felt a mix of curiosity and unease. Her presence commanded attention without her saying a word. "Good morning, Daniel," she said with a warm smile. "I hope you slept well." "Morning, Clara," Daniel replied. "I was thinking about your ideas yesterday. Some of them could really change how we operate." Clara nodded. "That is the goal. Every improvement begins with small steps. Let us walk through the airline today. I want to see your operations firsthand." Daniel agreed, feeling both excitement and nervousness. He led her through the terminals, showing her the check-in counters, boarding gates, and maintenance areas. Clara asked questions that made Daniel realize she was looking at more than just efficiency. She observed the behavior of employees, the organization of the staff, and the interactions between teams. Every detail mattered to her. At the baggage handling area, Daniel explained a new system for faster luggage processing. Clara watched closely, then asked, "Have you measured how much time each step takes? Could we reduce the waiting time without adding extra staff?" Daniel was impressed. He had thought about this himself but had not considered the exact numbers in this way. Clara suggested a method to test different scenarios using current resources. Daniel realized her suggestions were practical, not theoretical. She was not giving him ideas to show off, she genuinely wanted the airline to improve. Later, they walked to the customer service desks. Clara observed the staff helping passengers with questions about flights and schedules. She approached a young employee and asked, "How do you feel about your work here? Do you have any suggestions to make your job easier?" The employee looked surprised but answered honestly. Clara listened carefully and encouraged him to share his thoughts with the management. Daniel noticed how naturally she connected with people. Employees seemed to trust her instantly. During lunch, Daniel finally asked the question he had been holding back. "Clara, I have to know. Who are you, really? You know this airline so well, and everyone seems to respect you. I cannot understand how you just stepped in yesterday as if you belong here." Clara smiled, her eyes calm and serious. "Daniel, I will tell you this. I have been observing Skyline Airways for a long time. Your leadership is strong, but I wanted to understand the full picture before revealing myself completely. You are doing an excellent job, and I want to help you reach even higher." Daniel nodded, though he still did not fully understand. He could feel that Clara held a kind of power he had never encountered before. It was not a power of force or authority, but of knowledge, insight, and quiet influence. He realized that her role in the airline was far more significant than he had imagined. After lunch, Clara joined him for a meeting with the senior staff. She suggested small changes in operations and new ways to improve customer satisfaction. Every suggestion she made was practical, and staff members immediately responded with enthusiasm. Daniel watched closely. Her ability to inspire and guide without commanding was remarkable. By the end of the day, Daniel felt a mixture of admiration and unease. Clara Bennett was clearly someone extraordinary. She had a quiet power that changed how people worked, how decisions were made, and how the airline operated. Daniel realized that her presence was more than a challenge, it was an opportunity. As the office lights dimmed and employees began to leave, Daniel walked to his office and stared at the city skyline. He thought about Clara and the strange way she had taken control of the meeting, then spent the day observing and advising. One thing was certain, the story of Skyline Airways was about to change, and Daniel was right in the middle of it. The following morning, the Skyline Airways headquarters buzzed with activity. Employees moved quickly through the hallways, preparing for another day of flights, maintenance, and customer service. Daniel Harper walked through the lobby, his mind still full of thoughts about Clara Bennett. Her presence had changed the energy of the company, and he could feel that something big was about to happen. As he entered the boardroom for the morning meeting, he noticed Clara already there. She stood near the head of the table, holding a folder and looking calm and confident. The board members exchanged glances, clearly curious about her. Daniel felt a mix of excitement and tension. He did not know what she planned to announce, but he sensed that it would be important. Clara smiled at everyone. "Good morning," she said. "Today, I want to share a plan that will take Skyline Airways to new heights." She placed the folder on the table and opened it. Everyone leaned forward, eager to listen. Daniel noticed that her voice carried authority without being harsh. She spoke clearly and confidently, outlining strategies that were both ambitious and practical. She talked about expanding to international routes, adding more flights to high-demand cities, and introducing modern airplanes with better fuel efficiency. She explained how these changes could increase profits while keeping customers happy. The board members nodded and took notes. Daniel found himself impressed by the depth of her research. Every suggestion was backed by data, and she had considered the challenges carefully. She even proposed ways to support employees with additional training and benefits. Daniel raised his hand. "Clara, these ideas are excellent, but some of them would require significant investment. How do you suggest we manage the risks?" Clara smiled. "We can start small," she replied. "Pilot new routes, test modern airplanes on select flights, and track results. If successful, we can expand gradually. This way, the airline grows steadily without taking unnecessary risks." Daniel felt admiration for her approach. She was bold but careful, innovative yet practical. Every word she spoke made him realize that she was not just knowledgeable, she understood the business at its core. Then Clara paused. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each board member. "I believe Skyline Airways has incredible potential," she said. "I also believe that great leadership is about teamwork. Daniel has been an outstanding CEO, and I hope we can work together to achieve even more." A hush fell over the room. Daniel could feel the curiosity of everyone present. There was respect in her tone, but also a quiet authority that suggested she was more than an advisor. The board members whispered to each other, clearly impressed. After a few moments, Clara continued. I want to make one thing clear. I am not here to take credit from anyone. I am here to support and guide, using the resources I have. Skyline Airways is a company full of talent, and with the right direction, it can become a global leader. Daniel realized that she had not revealed her full position yet, but she had made an impact. The room felt charged with new energy. Employees, managers, and board members seemed inspired and motivated. Daniel could see that Clara's presence had already started to change the company culture. After the meeting, Daniel stayed behind. He felt both curious and cautious. He approached Clara and asked, "Your ideas are impressive, Clara. But why have you been so involved in this airline? I still do not know your full story." Clara smiled gently. "All in good time, Daniel," she said. "I wanted to see your leadership in action and understand the company before revealing myself completely. You have done exceptionally well, and now I am ready to share more soon." Daniel nodded, still unsure of what she meant. He realized that Clara was more than a consultant or an advisor. Her knowledge, confidence, and influence suggested that her connection to Skyline Airways ran deeper than anyone suspected. As Daniel left the boardroom, he felt a mixture of excitement and unease. Clara Bennett had changed the course of the day, and he knew her presence would continue to shape the future of the airline. He could not wait to learn more, but he also sensed that the full truth about Clara's role would soon surprise him. The day ended with a new sense of possibility. Skyline Airways had always been successful, but under Clara's influence, it was clear that something extraordinary was beginning. Daniel knew one thing for certain: the airline's future was about to become even brighter, and he was about to discover the full story behind the woman who had quietly taken command. The next morning, Daniel arrived at Skyline Airways headquarters earlier than usual. The events of the past days kept running through his mind. Clara Bennett's presence, her ideas, and her authority had changed everything. He had begun to wonder what her true position in the airline really was. Daniel was walking toward the boardroom when he saw Clara already there. She stood near the head of the table, holding a folder and smiling warmly. The board members were seated and chatting quietly, waiting for the meeting to start. Daniel noticed a calm confidence in Clara that made everyone around her feel both curious and respectful. "Good morning, Daniel, everyone," Clara said. "Today, I want to share a plan that will help us take Skyline Airways even further." Her tone was firm but friendly, and her presence commanded attention without being demanding. Daniel nodded, but inside he felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. He had a feeling today would answer the questions he had been holding back. As Clara began to speak, she outlined ideas for expanding the airline into new international markets, improving passenger services, and introducing more efficient airplanes. She spoke with precision, showing charts, schedules, and data to support her plans. Daniel listened carefully, impressed by the depth of her preparation and knowledge. Then, Clara paused and looked directly at Daniel. "Daniel, you have done an excellent job leading Skyline Airways," she said. "Your leadership and vision have brought the company this far. I have observed your work closely, and now it is time to share something important with you and the board." The room became silent. Daniel's heart raced. He sensed that the moment he had been waiting for had arrived. Clara continued, her voice calm but filled with quiet authority. "I am not only here to provide guidance or advice," she said. "I am the owner of Skyline Airways. I have invested in the company for many years, and now I am stepping forward to take a more active role in its operations." "Daniel, I have watched your work and respect your leadership. I want us to work together to make this airline stronger than ever." The board members gasped. Daniel felt a mixture of shock, disbelief, and relief. He had suspected that Clara's influence was greater than he realized, but he had never imagined that she owned the entire airline. He looked at her carefully, realizing the calm confidence she had shown all along was not just skill, it was authority backed by ownership. Daniel slowly nodded. "I did not expect this," he said. "You have incredible insight and vision. I am glad to work with you and learn from you." Clara smiled. "Daniel, I do not want to replace you. I respect the work you have done. My goal is to help Skyline Airways reach new heights. Together, we can achieve far more than either of us could alone." Daniel felt a sense of relief. The tension he had carried for days melted away. Clara's revelation explained everything: the way she had taken the CEO seat confidently, her knowledge of every part of the airline, and the respect she commanded from employees. Everything now made sense. The board members, too, seemed reassured. They understood that Daniel and Clara would lead the airline as partners. Some of them nodded with excitement, recognizing the opportunities that lay ahead. After the meeting, Daniel and Clara walked through the terminals. Daniel asked questions about her plans, and she shared ideas about improving flights, enhancing customer service, and supporting employees. Daniel realized that her ownership did not change her focus on teamwork, fairness, and practical solutions. By the end of the day, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. Skyline Airways had always been successful, but now, with Clara as a partner, he knew the airline could reach a level he had only imagined. The revelation of her ownership had answered his questions, but it had also opened a new chapter full of opportunities, challenges, and growth. Daniel looked out over the airport as the sun began to set. He thought about Clara and her unexpected arrival in his life. She had not only taken his seat in the boardroom, she had transformed the way he thought about leadership, partnership, and vision. One thing was certain: with Clara and Daniel working together, Skyline Airways was ready for a future brighter than anything it had achieved before. The airline was no longer just a company, it was a story of collaboration, respect, and shared success. After Clara revealed that she owned Skyline Airways, Daniel felt both relief and excitement. He had wondered for days who she really was, and now the mystery was solved. But with the revelation came a new responsibility. Daniel and Clara had to work together to ensure the airline grew successfully. The next morning, the two of them met in the executive office. Daniel had prepared his notes for upcoming projects, while Clara carried her tablet and a folder filled with research. They sat across from each other, ready to plan the next steps for the company. "Daniel," Clara began, "I have observed this airline for a long time. You have done an excellent job leading it. But together, we can take it even further. My ideas are not meant to replace your work. They are meant to strengthen it." Daniel nodded. "I understand, Clara. I am ready to learn and work together. We can make Skyline Airways better for everyone, employees and passengers alike." They started by reviewing the current operations. Clara asked detailed questions about flight schedules, staff training, and passenger satisfaction. Daniel explained the processes he had put in place and shared the challenges he faced. Clara listened carefully, taking notes and suggesting small adjustments that could improve efficiency. Their partnership quickly became productive. Clara's insights complemented Daniel's experience. She suggested new routes to international cities, ways to reduce delays, and strategies to enhance customer service. Daniel offered his knowledge of employee strengths, budgeting, and logistics. Together, they created a plan that was stronger than anything either had developed alone. Later, they walked through the terminals. Daniel introduced Clara to more employees, and she spoke to them kindly, asking about their work and listening to their suggestions. The staff immediately responded positively. They could see that both Daniel and Clara cared about the airline and the people who worked there. Clara also introduced new initiatives for staff training. She believed that investing in employees would make the airline stronger in the long term. Daniel agreed and proposed additional workshops for pilots, flight attendants, and ground staff. They discussed ways to reward hard work and recognize employees who went above and beyond. The day passed quickly, filled with meetings, discussions, and inspections. Daniel noticed that Clara did not act like an owner trying to control everything. Instead, she guided decisions thoughtfully, asked for input, and respected his experience. He began to realize that her ownership was not about power, it was about responsibility and vision. By the evening, Daniel and Clara had drafted a full plan for the airline's growth. It included new international routes, updated aircraft, improved customer service, and enhanced employee programs. Daniel felt proud and inspired. The airline was no longer just a company he managed, it was a partnership, a team effort with shared goals. As they finished, Clara looked at Daniel and smiled. "I am confident in our work together," she said. "Skyline Airways has incredible potential. With your leadership and our combined ideas, we can achieve more than ever before." Daniel returned her smile. "I am ready, Clara. Let's make this airline something extraordinary." The next day, the boardroom was filled with energy. Daniel and Clara presented their joint plan to the board members. The room was alive with discussion, excitement, and collaboration. Everyone could see the synergy between the two leaders. Board members asked questions, and both Daniel and Clara answered confidently, complementing each other's strengths. By the end of the meeting, the board approved the new plan unanimously. Daniel felt a sense of pride. He had always believed in the airline, but now, with Clara as a partner, he realized the company could reach heights he had never imagined. As Daniel walked through the terminal after the meeting, he looked at the employees preparing for the next flights. He thought about the journey ahead. With Clara's guidance, their shared vision, and the dedication of the team, Skyline Airways was ready to grow, succeed, and inspire confidence in every passenger. Daniel knew that their partnership was not just about business, it was about teamwork, trust, and shared purpose. Together, they would shape the future of Skyline Airways and show that great leadership was not about titles alone, but about collaboration and vision. Months had passed since Clara Bennett revealed that she owned Skyline Airways. During that time, the airline had transformed under the joint leadership of Daniel and Clara. Employees had grown more confident, flights were more efficient, and passenger satisfaction had reached record levels. The company's reputation continued to rise, and the world began to notice Skyline Airways as a leader in innovation and service. Daniel walked through the terminal early one morning, watching employees prepare for the day's flights. Ground staff moved quickly, flight attendants organized their schedules, and pilots checked their aircraft carefully. Daniel felt proud. The airline was thriving, and he knew Clara's guidance had made a real difference. Clara joined him, holding a tablet with updated reports. "Daniel," she said, smiling, "the latest customer satisfaction surveys are excellent. Passengers are happier than ever, and flight punctuality has improved by nearly 20%. Daniel nodded, impressed. "That is incredible. Your ideas and leadership have made a huge impact, Clara. I never imagined the airline could grow this quickly. Clara shook her head gently. It is not just me. It is the teamwork between us and the dedication of every employee here. That is what makes Skyline Airways strong. Leadership is about supporting others, not controlling everything yourself. Daniel realized how much he had learned from Clara. She had taught him that leadership was not only about making decisions but also about listening, observing, and trusting the team. The airline had become more than a business, it was a community of people working together toward a common goal. Later that week, Daniel and Clara attended a conference for airline executives. They were invited to speak about Skyline Airways' growth, innovation, and management strategies. As they stood on the stage together, Daniel felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. He shared the stage with Clara, presenting their joint vision for the airline. Success, Clara said during her speech, comes from collaboration, understanding, and respect. Skyline Airways has achieved this by valuing its employees, investing in the right technology, and working together as a team. Leadership is about empowering people and giving them the tools to succeed. The audience applauded. Daniel looked at Clara and smiled. Her words reflected everything they had worked toward. They had turned the airline into a company admired not only for its flights and service but also for its culture and leadership. Back at headquarters, Daniel and Clara reviewed new plans for the next year. They discussed international routes, upgraded aircraft, and programs for employees' professional growth. Every suggestion was carefully considered, every idea supported by data and experience. Daniel felt excited about the future. With Clara as his partner, the airline could achieve anything. As the day ended, Daniel walked to the observation deck, looking out over the airport and the city beyond. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the planes ready to take off. He thought about how far Skyline Airways had come. The airline had grown stronger, not only because of strategy and investment but because of vision, teamwork, and trust. Clara joined him quietly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said. Daniel nodded. "It is. And to think it all started when you walked into my office and took my seat in that first meeting." Clara laughed softly. "Sometimes, a small change can lead to big results. That day, I wanted to see how you handled the challenge. You proved your strength, Daniel, and together we proved what this airline could become." Daniel smiled. He realized that leadership was about more than titles or ownership. It was about collaboration, respect, and shared purpose. Clara's arrival had been unexpected, but it had created opportunities, growth, and lessons that he would never forget. As the planes took off into the evening sky, Daniel felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. Skyline Airways was no longer just an airline. It was a story of teamwork, vision, and the power of partnership. Daniel and Clara knew there would be challenges ahead, but they also knew they could overcome anything together. The airline's journey was far from over, but with the lessons learned, the shared leadership, and the dedication of the team, Skyline Airways was ready to reach new heights. Daniel looked at Clara and nodded. Together, they would continue to lead, inspire, and make Skyline Airways a company that people would admire for generations. The future was bright, and for Daniel, Clara, and everyone at Skyline Airways, it had never looked more promising.